If you keep your money in a bank account, listen up. Your savings could be at risk. The banking system is once again under extreme stress. Car loans are defaulting, credit card debt is ballooning, and commercial real estate is on the brink of collapse. These aren't just red flags, they are sounds of a financial ticking time bomb. But there is a safe and easy way to protect your financial future. Gold. Gold is historically safe from economic policies that jeopardize your wealth. Gold allows you to lock in today's value in the face of tomorrow's uncertainty. Don't wait for the next headline crash or bank run to act. Inaction could be catastrophic. Contact Noble Gold Investments today and safeguard your tomorrow. As a bonus, they'll give you a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin as a thank you for opening a qualified account. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com to claim your gold coin. noblegoldinvestments.com.
Just to show you how seriously, I'm going to tell you how we checked up on you. We call these things surgical transmitters. One was fitted inside you when you went into the Charing Cross Hospital 3 years ago. Appendix, wasn't it?
Transmitter? Are you trying to tell me that you listen to every word I say?
A machine does. Untouched by human hand. There's a little gadget in these things that ties up with the pulse rate. Puts a bleep onto anything that you're excited about saying.
Fake newsreels?
Fake newsreels. For the past 10 years, people have been looking at our fake newsreels and listening to our fake commentary.
And they accept it for the truth?
Link number 4 in world control.
A computer?
And what's so remarkable about that? It's just a machine that can store a vast amount of information.
A machine that knows too bloody much.
Now you're being hysterical about it. Computer's very simple. You feed data into it. Anything from the Wall Street closing prices to the North Atlantic weather reports.
And you get decisions. That machine's taken you over.
Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Inspired live stream. It is Monday, March 11th, 2024. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. We're winning. Truth is winning. Slowly but surely, we're on the track here. This was just a little glimpse of what we're about to share with you today. This is from a 1968 BBC show. It's called Newsbenders. It was part of a larger program, but Newsbenders was this particular episode. And for those who have never seen this before, I can pretty much promise you this will blow your mind. In so many ways. It is absolutely mind-blowing. I remember when I saw it for the first time, we talked about it before on this channel, but we thought it's time to bring it back, especially in the context of what is happening today. Listen, let me tell you something about mainstream media or Mockingbird media, however you want to call the clowns. Today, only 12% of Americans trust the TV news media. That's a good thing. When it comes to the whys, why they don't trust them, you have, they say, bias, sensationalism, lack of transparency, corporate pressure from sponsors and whatnot. So the reasons why they don't trust him are surface reasons. I don't think we're talking about the actual truth as to what makes the media completely fake. And let me tell you this, there's only one institution in the United States that the people trust less than the media, and that is Congress. 8% of Americans trust Congress. But let's get back to the show. Here's what I tried to do years ago when we first aired this, and I tried it again over the weekend. I tried to edit it down to the most important pieces, but this is a show that you pretty much have to see in its entirety to appreciate the depth of what was aired on BBC. BBC, the biggest government-run station in the United Kingdom. The truth bombs are out there, my friends. This was one of the biggest in 1968. And think about it. This is almost 60 years ago now. Think about what they are talking about in here as we watch this together. About 23, 24 minutes. We're going to air it almost in its entirety. We just edited down the breaks and the pauses to make it a little more concise. But here we go, my friends. This is Newsbenders. An eye-opener, maybe a shocker, a truth bomb from 1968 when it aired on BBC. Let's go.
I'm sorry to keep. Sit down, Mr. Larkin.
Thank you.
Very surprised we got you to come here, Mr. Larkin.
Well, I couldn't see what the CWNS would want with me. Still can't.
You know anything about us?
Oh, I heard one or two things when I was working with the BBC.
What'd you hear?
CWNS set up midway between the government and the TV companies. Anytime the newsreel boys put out stuff with security classification, wars, weapons, political leaks, they get their film through this office.
What do we know about you? Larkin. Robert Santor.
Yes, it's a family name.
Good family. Good education. But you turned your back on all that, didn't you? Tried a little bit of everything. 1955, you wrote some plays for the BBC, then worked for them as a story editor. 1961, you got a 3-year contract as a director, which you didn't renew.
Oh, the BBC won't pay money.
Well, you're in the money now, aren't you? In 1968. There's your flat in Holland Park, your cottage in Hampshire, 2 children.
And a dog and a cat who commute with us to the country at weekends. Well, maybe you knew that already.
6 years ago, there were those shows you did on alcoholism, blood sports, slum clearance. People called you bright. Very bright. There were other words they used.
Hard-hitting, vital.
Now you do only 4 shows a year. The critics call them brilliant. They're high in the ratings, and they're little soft in the center. Don't think I'm complaining.
Oh, you can complain if you want to.
Just call it a friendly professional interest. I'd like to know what happened to alcoholism and blood sports.
Call it reaching the age of 35. Call it school fees to fix the dresses. Call it joining the establishment. Call it being a socialist for 15 years in a country that'll never be socialist.
Good. There's your wife, Rachel. You married the girl next door. Your 2 children, Rebecca and Daniel, nice little family. 3 years ago, you got yourself a girlfriend.
Where the hell did you get that from? Just tell me where it stops.
Lasted for 18 months. Your wife never knew about it, even when you nearly decided to leave her.
Who are you? It's the initials JG, that's all I know. Never met you before in all my life.
July the 25th, 1966. You finally decided to break it off with this woman. You said you loved her. You said you loved your children. It was 2 against 1.
Sheila told you all this.
We have ways of finding things out.
But why? If it's blackmail, the thing won't hold water. It's all in the past. Well, there'd be pain, of course, for Rachel and the children. But you wouldn't get anything else out of it.
No. We've just been interested in you for a long time.
Interested?
You went back to your wife because you said it was 2 against 1. I call that very responsible. We're interested in very responsible people. In fact, we have a little index for them. We call it their power quotient, a ratio of responsibility as against aggression. Yours is very low, 0.2. That's very low, just what we need. Sit down. I'm sorry, the language must seem rather strange at first, but we take it very seriously. Just to show you how seriously, I'm going to tell you how we checked up on you. We call these things surgical transmitters. One was fitted inside you when you went into the Charing Cross Hospital 3 years ago. Appendix, wasn't it?
Transmitter? Are you trying to tell me that you listen to every word I say?
A machine does. Untouched by human hand. There's a little gadget in these things that ties up with the pulse rate. Puts a bleep onto anything that you're excited about saying. British.
Power quotient, surgical transmitters, high-speed tape. It's Doctor Who. I'm for the real world, Jack. Good afternoon.
I should just have to give you an example. On July the 26th, 1966, you were talking to this girl, Sheila, about love. You said to her, I quote, "The kind of love I have for you, Sheila, well, it's bed love and it's more. It's staying in bed till 6 p.m. and saying I can't go to the office today. It's eating breakfast at twilight, laughing at leaves on the pavement."
I don't believe there's any such thing as these surgical transmitters. You got Sheila to tell you all this. Then you wrote it down the way I might have said it. You're a good guesser.
Can you hear your heart beating?
It's eating breakfast at twilight. Laughing at leaves on the pavement. Getting a cab to a silly movie to Paris. It's moving when you're tired of staying still. And I've done it all before when I could do it with no ties. Now to just be irresponsible.
So there really is one of those things inside me. What do you want?
We want people with low power quotients. We want them to work for us. Nothing more sinister than that.
All this just to offer me a job.
Special sort of job. The newspapers talk about the corridors of power, the power elite. Let's just say we'd like you to join the club. There's a vacancy in our newsreel department. We'd like you to help plan the news for 1973.
Come again?
Plan the news for 1973. What are you doing?
I just want to make sure the sunlight's real.
I always tell people, news is the most highly developed form of fiction. The most difficult. Come on. I just want to show you something. There's no obligation to buy. Really. News requires imagination. News requires responsibility. We think you're well qualified. Please. "1973. We've only roughed out the news for 1973. Nothing's been given the go-ahead yet, but this is the kind of thing we have in mind.
Today, April 14th, 1973. First historic pictures by Radstar of the combined U.S.-Russian landing on the moon. Shown here are Majors Webb and Mikhailovich taking their first steps into the unknown, firing their retro rockets to land their spacecraft on the dust-covered surface. A comforting note for us stay-at-homes, both the Pentagon and the Kremlin have announced that the moon has no strategic value.
A comforting note for us stay-at-home. I can't show you any film on this next model. We haven't photographed it yet. But this is the way it will sound.
June the 22nd, 1973. The State Department releases film of the ultimate weapon, codenamed Icarus. This satellite is equipped with a solid reactor. In layman's terms, it can freeze air solid, stopping all missiles, killing all forms of life. Icarus orbits at the same speed as the Earth, can hang in position over every major city that threatens the peace-loving nations.
Rather proud of this one. Please, sit down, Mr. Lutton.
September the 5th, 1973. The new phase in global warfare. War by example. At 4:32 our time, China took out the remote Indian border village of Bandar, unprotected by the Icarus network. After the first 2 5-megaton H-bombs have fallen, the 9-way hotline finally
Switch it off.
effect.
This is going to happen in 1973. You're going to make this happen?
No. We're going to make models much cheaper. Then we photograph the model.
Fake newsreels.
That's fake newsreels. For the past 10 years, people have been looking at our fake newsreels and listening to our fake commentary.
And they accept it for the truth. And you can do it. Stop 100 people in the street. How many of them have actually seen a missile or a satellite? They're just told they exist and they believe it.
Yes, you're getting there. I knew you would.
Well, now the moon rocket and the satellite, that you can get away with. That's too remote for people to grasp. It's too far away. But, I mean, you invented this village on the Indo-Chinese border.
Oh, yes.
Well, somebody could check up.
Very mountainous territory up there. There'll be no survivors in 1973. No rescue work. Radiation scare.
Yes. You can do it. This could be the news for 1973.
Not necessarily exactly like this. We only plan in detail 1 year ahead.
Oh, you only plan 1 year ahead.
Hey, tell me, what is the news item that's bothered you the most in the past year, 1967?
Well, it has to be the new American intercontinental ballistic missile, the Boy Wonder, doesn't it?
Just the one I asked him to set up for you. The new ICBM, codename Boy Wonder, with a much-talked-about Mercury warhead. I haven't any special effects up here, but perhaps with the proper sound. Blast off. And Robert Larkin, television director, high IQ, 35 years old, is scared. Scared by nothing. It doesn't work. It's a scientific impossibility. The same goes for the much-talked-about Mercury warhead. Perspex.
If this rocket doesn't work, then the others?
They have a fireworks party at Cape Kennedy almost every other day. Well, you didn't really believe there were all these things whizzing about up there, did you? Sputniks and rockets. Astronauts crossing their legs for 8 days.
How long has this been going on?
Since Hiroshima.
And the H-bomb, you mean, that doesn't work either?
Right. Dirty.
Very, very dirty.
What was your first reaction? Relief. Yes, it has to be relief. Only 12 people are allowed beyond this point. Most of them work in the photographic department, taking phony newsreel pictures of our models and processing film and so on. Sit down, please. Ah, pretty pictures from our stills department. The Boy Wonder.
Do you really think that missiles and satellites are mile out of country?
No, not at all. I've only shown you the hard news. There are other things, much softer things we thought might interest you.
Well?
1973, we thought it might be time for an anti-teenage movement. A long-awaited return to maturity. Sheriff. Perhaps even a religious revival.
Oh, I see. You want me to arrange the grand opening of Ruislip Cathedral, 1st of October, 1973. Mark the date down in my 10-year diary.
We are very serious about you. There are things about you we like very much. Qualities you have to offer. Qualities that we perhaps don't possess at the moment. That's
Great.
our file on you. I have to return to July the 25th, 1966, the day you broke it off with this girl, Sheila. You said to her, it won't work, Sheila, and she said something, and then you said...
You remember I went away with Rachel and the kids to the seaside? It was midweek and this huge stretch of sand was empty. Just a circle of footprints around 3 sandcastles and tracks out to sea. The whole damn day of my family marked out in front of me. The sun was going down. Rachel kept calling the kids to get dressed. She picked up buckets and spades, corny bloody things like that. I was up at the car. I looked at those footprints, and I knew those people were slipping away. There were things I could tell them.
We rather like that bit about footprints. You see, in this job, some of us have got rather a long way away from the idea of footprints in the sand.
Those footprints were made by my children. Now, you want me to scare the hell out of them with every bomb from A to H inclusive. Well, why? When did it all start?
1945. You may remember the Americans let off their 2 atomic bombs. Well, they didn't want other people doing the same thing. I mean, you do see that, don't you?
Oh, I don't know.
To scare the people off, the Americans put it up, and the atomic bomb was halfway along the line to something much bigger, the hydrogen bomb. It didn't work. They spent 5 years in negative research.
Well, what about the Russians? They're supposed to have quite a pile of these things.
We were surprised when they started their tests. Then we got a few feelers from their secret service. Nowadays, we work very closely together. Oh, all these stories about spies going off to Russia. Mr. Philby, remember? Just good copy for the Sunday papers.
Good copy. Well, the Chinese. I mean, they've just announced their bomb.
Yeah, we played along with it. We recorded their phony explosion. We're rather hoping the Chinese will come along, complete the pattern, you know.
In Vietnam, hundreds of people are being killed every week. Well, you can't do that with your models.
No. And you can't cure people of bad habits in 2 generations. They like to carry rifles. They like to put lines on maps. And we let them because we control the situation. There's no danger of world war. Just a simple choice for everybody. Capitalism or communism. Strawberry or vanilla. It all adds up to the same thing now we've got rid of the big bangers.
But how can you be sure that Johnson, Kosygin aren't working on other things? Poison gases, bacteria.
Pathetic, man of your intelligence. You don't want to destroy the world, neither do I. What makes you think that presidents are different?
Well, they've made some pretty good stabs at it in the past.
It wasn't the right sort of control then. Nowadays we know better. Politicians are easy to control. The grosser mentality boys who like to be photographed getting in and out of Daimlers in Whitehall. They come right at the bottom of our organization. A few rungs up the ladder, there are the people in the top secret factories. Just those in a position to know they're making weapons that don't really work.
There must come a time when somebody wants to use one of those weapons. I mean, somebody is standing there with a finger on the button.
Well, that's the beauty of it. Nobody presses the button. We control all the crises. We build them up and we shut them down.
We. Again.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. Near the top of the hierarchy, there are the economists, top civil servants, the top brass in the military. Those men who are supposed to view the nuclear tests and so on. And above them, CWNS.
Right at the top. Classified World News Service. Just who the hell are you?
It's obvious, isn't it? Just a very few of the top people in communications in every major country in the world.
Oh, you mean you run all these magazines?
No, of course not. We just get them to take some of our copy every week. Television is much more important to us. It all happens so quickly.
Now, you say you can put out what pictures you like on television. Doesn't anybody try to stop you?
No, nobody wants to. 99.386% of the population wouldn't believe this conversation. And the rest are working for us. And they're the top minds, the really responsible people. They know they're guaranteeing the lives of their grandchildren the only foolproof way.
Scaring the hell out of their grandchildren. Well, I won't buy it.
You must admit there has to be some kind of control in this world of ours. Look at that. And remember that 1/4 of the world is starving. There are the full bellies and the empty bellies. Some of the empty bellies carry rifles. Well, we full bellies are getting a bit flabby. We're not very good with rifles anymore, so we've devised 2 ways to keep the empty bellies under control. One of them is this fictitious hydrogen bomb we've talked about. The other one is money. Enough money to fill some of the empty bellies and put a hopeful smile on the faces of the others. A great wall of money all around Britain. And it's no secret that the British economy is in trouble at the moment. So we have to put that right, too, to stay alive. We have to control the people in this country. Scare an ostrich, buries its head in the sand. You scare a hedgehog, it rolls itself up into a ball. When a woman's frightened, she goes out and buys herself a hat.
You mean you scare us so that we'll buy more, so that money moves quicker, production moves up?
We don't say scare when we talk about human beings. We say threaten them emotionally. And there are all sorts of ways of doing it, not just the big ones like the hydrogen bomb. Overcrowd them a little with bad planning. Sell them too many motor cars. Anything to keep them a little bit removed from reality. Nowadays, people don't work for money. They work for the idea of money. They don't even love for love. They love for the idea of love. They only hate for the idea of hate. It took us 5 years to find a non-addictive drug. One we could pay off against the hard drugs. LSD.
You marketed that.
Oh, yes, of course. And for a very good reason. Some of these protest movements were getting a little bit too close to the mark. LSD gave them nice little hallucinations. Made them talk like 3-year-olds, throw flowers at policemen. Now we talk terms.
You're not still going to ask me to work for you.
I'm afraid I've had to put all this rather bluntly. You see, there wasn't really very much time. It must be rather a shock. Well, I mean, most people realize that the world is controlled from about 6 big cities. But it must be rather shocking to learn that a sixth of the world is controlled from this building.
You mean you?
Oh, no. I only rate an office on the 7th floor. There are 2 other offices above this one, and a giant computer system. Link number 4 in world control.
A compute?
And what's so remarkable about that? It's just a machine that can store a vast amount of information.
A machine that knows too bloody much.
Now you're being hysterical about it. Computer's very simple. You feed data into it. Anything from the Wall Street closing prices to the North Atlantic weather reports.
And you get decisions. That machine's taken you over.
It's just a machine. Extra hands for the people who know how to control it.
This one above us, it's square in a box.
Yeah, I suppose you could call it square in a sort of a box.
Do you know why I go away at weekends? To get away from people in boxes. They live in boxes. They get their thoughts, their problems, and their answers out of boxes. And I like to get away at weekends because they're not people anymore. Now, you know all about me. My cottage in Hampshire. But did you know that there's a line of trees that goes right up past the house? And the noise they make is like the sea. Did you know that I find it difficult to sleep in the country? And I like to go and stand in the garden before dawn. And I feel good because I know that my wife and my children are asleep inside. And I like to go out and walk past the wet hedgerows until I can see pasture land and the smoke from the cottages in the
This
village.
may be all very well for one of your grassroots programs, but I'm afraid time is running out. I ought to tell you, we pay a great deal of money. We can afford to. We save such a lot on things like the national defense budget, so on. We would start you off at £250,000 a year.
Oh.
Rising to £1 million when you make the Ministry of Morality, which I know you will.
Will you let me out of here?
One little point. I should have told you about these surgical transmitters. There's enough of this stuff inside you at this moment to kill 6 people. There's a button we can press. I'm sorry about the dramatic. Our boys call these things the oral contraceptive. Keeps them from talking too much.
So there must be one of those transmitters inside you. Who presses the button? Extra hands. All this stuff about the computer being extra hands for the men who know how to control it. That machine controls you.
You start on Monday.
Newsbenders from 1968. It aired on BBC, part of a bigger series. For those of you who've seen this before and those who've seen it again, it never really ceases to amaze me in terms of its, the details and the accuracy already in the predictions in this particular show. If you look at how they talked about the moon landings and whatnot, and it's aired in 1968, and then you have 1972 and 73 and the lunar landings and it's just, I think it is something that you take and you think about it and you walk with it, because it shows us one thing absolutely clear, that there is no stone that we can leave unturned, that there is nothing that we should not question, even if we believe 100% it to be true. This is the time to question it. If something is true, if something is factual and accurate, it can be questioned and it'll be confirmed. But we were brought up with so many biases and so many false beliefs. And the lies have been going on for such a long time. It's not since part of this program says, when has this started? And he says 1945, Hiroshima. No. This is for a fact, not a fact. I can tell you this. The media in and of itself was always, since its invention, meant to be what it is today. It just changed its tone over time. And I have this discussion with people because today, people, a lot of people, even if they're not as deep into the truth seeking, they can see the fake media. They can see all that, and they go, "Okay, I'm not believing this." And you go, "Why?" Well, they're just screaming at me. They're politically biased, and they get their money from Pfizer, and that's all well and good. But that's not the rude point. The news was fake 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. It was just fake in a different way. You had those serious reporters that sat there with a very trained voice, and they said things in a particular way to get right to your subconscious and make you believe that they are telling the truth inherently every single time. And so that's what they were doing. And they were more professional, and they dressed differently, and they looked differently. And then they were saying these things to you that you never questioned. Almost nobody questioned that. If something was wrong, they said, well, they got it wrong. But this was always the way. And now I got to ask you, let's just take this at face value and say, what if what they said in this program here is entirely true? What if most of the things and the issues that we talked about, thought about, argued about, had wars about are not real issues? What if the things that they say are the biggest threats don't even exist? Could this be true? Would this be, and this is, of course, people have said before, people are talking about the certain weaponry that doesn't really work or exist. People talk about problems that we are continually being bombarded with that never really existed. And of course, we knew, for example, 2019, I said this before, Event 201 projected what the news over the next years was going to be with COVID. They projected the coronavirus. It exactly planned it out. And then once the COVID era came to an end, what leaked? That the CNN producers and everybody else is moving on to what? Climate change. That's going to be the big threat now. So they do plan in a very visible way. But what I think we can't, or it's hard to wrap our minds around, is the detail and how much invention and how much illusion there is and how it's centrally steered. So here's the thing. Take this, rewatch it, share it with your friends, discuss it, think about it. This can't be analyzed in a few minutes and sort of put to the side. This has to be thought through. And you have to ask yourself, the guy who wrote this, Desmond Loudon, there's not much to be found about him. He's still alive. But you have to ask yourself, who was able to write something like this? Who was able to write that script and sort of deliver it in a matter-of-fact way in 1968, when for most people, this must have been such science fiction. It was too crazy to believe. It's 2024, and this still would be very crazy to believe for a lot of people. But these are the questions we need to ask. Not whether the news has gotten corrupted. Not whether the news being in the hands of just a few corporations has done this. Think about news agencies, AP, Reuters. There's only a few. Think about who feeds them, who feeds the stories. Would it really be that difficult to create a program like this? And do you need the actual reporters and journalists that are reading the news to be part of it? No, you don't. There's not a whole lot of people that need to be a part of it. So please walk with this. Please think about it. Please make up your own mind and take this as a springboard to investigate other subjects. I think it's really, really important. I think that everybody needs to think for themselves. Right now, it's very nebulous. So it's hard to tell what the facts are from the fiction. What we can tell is what the fiction is. It's just like, when you go and investigate 9/11 and all these things, you can tell very clearly what it wasn't. It's harder to tell exactly what it was because some facts are so nebulous. But right now we're in this phase where we uncover everything. We lift a rug and we look underneath it and look for everything that's been fake. And it's way more than we ever allowed ourselves to believe. All right, thank you for tuning in. I want to invite you. There's 24 hours left on an offer we have here that to join our locals community, Inspired Locals community, for 1 month free, completely to try it out. It's where we go deeper, more intimate, more personal, and no censorship because we don't have to worry about what we say and how we say it. Just completely blunt and honest truth. Coffee and truth. That's the main format, our live streams there. If you want to join us, go to inspired.locals.com and use the promo code TRY, number 4, and free, all caps. A whole month for free. We would love to see you there. It's a very special community. You can post, you can comment, you can share, you can watch, and just be part of the Inspired Tribe in a more intimate way and connect with others. Friendships have been formed, businesses have been formed. It's a very, very inspiring community. So thank you all so much for tuning in today. Please share this with your friends and family. Please discuss this around the dinner table. This is mind-blowing every time I watch it. And I'm aware of these things. I'm in it every day. And still, my mind is blown. 1968. Chances are pretty much everything was fake. All right, my friends. Much love. Many blessings. We'll be back with you again very, very soon.